Welcome to a Nerdy Bunch presentation of Back to the Future. We are the collective known as the Cosmic. We are the collective known as the Cosmic Duo. We traverse the space-time continuum watching movies 20 years or older to discuss their relevance then and how they hold up now. I'm your host, English Dave, and helping me stay home because I really shouldn't be traveling for Thanksgiving this year is my co-host, Rocket Mike. What's up, Mike?
What's up? What a time to talk about travel.
Right.
Especially in this movie. I was like,
Right.
all right. We won't be seeing planes, trains, or maybe sometimes automobiles.
Maybe
definitely
sometimes, but
not the first two for a very long time.
at least if you can, you should be avoiding those. Welcome to our Thanksgiving special, part one of our two-part Thanksgiving special of Back to the Future. We are looking at planes, trains, and automobiles, which, funny, Mike, there are not that many Thanksgiving movies.
No, in fact, before seeing this, I kind of assumed it was a Christmas movie because that's what you're used to
Right.
seeing, especially when you start seeing any kind of winter setting. You're like, yeah, it must be Christmas. That's exactly why everyone's so busy to get home so soon. But Thanksgiving kind of pulls in just as much family as
Makes
other
sense.
holidays,
It makes
Yeah,
sense.
no, totally. And so I didn't at first affiliate this with Thanksgiving. This was actually the first time I've seen this movie.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I have not completed my John Hughes watch list.
Yes, as Mike said, this was directed by John Hughes, who has done a lot of movies that you may have heard of. Even if you don't know his name, he's done a lot of movies you heard of, namely, famously, he had things like Ferris Bueller, which we have done a Back to the Future on, so check that out. That's a shameless plug.
A lot of actors from Ferris Bueller were in this too.
Right. He also gave us Home Alone movies. Actually, he wrote the Home Alone, right? He didn't direct it. That's Chris Columbus.
Yeah.
Columbus
directed.
Yeah, he wrote the whole Home Alone movie. Breakfast Club as well, John Hughes. John Hughes. In fact, he was going through a lot of these kind of like teen coming of age stories, and this was kind of different at the time. Because
it was nice. Yeah.
That was like a different take for John Hughes. R-rated movie because of
really?
one scene. Yes, because of one scene. It had 18 F-bombs.
Oh yeah, which was okay. Yeah, spoiler. Yeah, might as well mention it now. I can't honestly say I recall ever seeing Steve Martin swear. He's, from what I remember, at least for his stand-up, he wasn't one to throw out any swear words. At least that wasn't like his shtick. But I love that scene.
Did you recognize the lady? She was secretary in Ferris Bueller, which I thought was great. This movie,
Stein in there.
Amazing cameo by fucking Kevin Bacon. What?
Yeah. I'm like, okay, so he must play a key role in this, right? We're seeing him pretty early on, and
like,
that was it.
Nope.
Not even any real lines, just kind of a.
That's all you get from him.
Stare down from across the street.
This movie came out 25th November 1987, so just in time for Thanksgiving 1987, on a budget of $30 million, and it would go on to make $49.5 million in the box office. As we mentioned before, this stars Steve Martin and also stars the late, great John Candy in one of his most famous roles. Even if you've never, Mike, you said this was your first time seeing the film, I'm sure you associated John Candy with this movie alongside Steve Martin.
Yeah.
It's one of those movies that you just know he did.
For sure. I mean, especially going back to Home Alone, that I think that was the first role I've seen him in, and he only had a couple scenes. It was helping Mrs. McAllister get back home in any way she was going through her own planes, trains, and automobiles mini movie there just to get back home to rescue her son. Right. Which I guess was appropriate seeing John Candy there with the Polka Boy, Polka Band,
And this would be just before he did Uncle Buck as well with John Candy and John Hughes together, which I think we need to add to the list because
I've never seen that one either.
What? That's another one.
Yeah.
In a weird way, like Uncle Buck, his character in Home Alone, and this almost feel like the same character.
Okay.
They could always feel like it was the same person at different stages of their lives. John Hughes was famously known to have written this movie in a very, very short time. He's known to have written a lot of his movies in a very short time. But Mike, do you have any more information on how this movie came together?
So it was funny. I was kind of already guessing how he created this movie, since it does step away from the teenage, coming of age after school special kind of movie that he's been known for. And in this one, I'm like, okay, this is the first time he's, dealing with adult stories. I wonder if this has anything to do with his real life. And damn it, I was right. I was like, okay. So basically, Steve Martin is playing John Hughes, or vice versa. I don't know if I got that, strike that, reverse it. But yeah, that's it. Steve Martin is playing what John Hughes actually went through one Thanksgiving. And he was doing a job very similar to what Steve Martin had. It was in marketing. He was going to New York for a presentation. It was scheduled at 11 a.m. in New York, and he had to be back in Chicago on a flight for a 5 p.m. flight. And of course, that was, he got on just like the movie. It got delayed. It got sent somewhere else. I think it went to like Denver and then went to Arizona. And he was staying in a hotel, and snowstorm happening overnight. And it took him, let's see, I think he was there on a Wednesday, and he didn't get home until Monday the next week. So 5 days it took him to get home. So during this, it's no wonder that it only took him, I think, I want to say 6 or 9 hours to make the first 60 pages of this.
Which is crazy.
Oh yeah, like what else are you gonna do with your time? We're like, he's like, motherfucker, I'm gonna fucking show you.
I'll write a successful movie.
That's probably where that scene came down. We're like, give me a fucking car right fucking now.
Which I absolutely love that scene. Wow.
You've always wanted to go off on someone like that, but you're like, I don't know what's going to take me to get pushed to that level, and then it has to be that exactly.
You saying that this is based on like true experiences from John Hughes. It kind of makes sense, because what I like about this movie is that it's a Thanksgiving movie that's not about Thanksgiving. It's about getting home for Thanksgiving. Yeah. It's not, usually a Thanksgiving movie would be about the family, the drama, and all the politics and blah, blah, blah. The things you associate with Thanksgiving. We didn't even, it ends at the beginning of Thanksgiving. And like most holidays or events, it's usually the build up, the lead up to it. That's usually the interesting part. Once the day is there and it's over, that's it. It's done. Yeah. And to focus on the journey makes a lot of sense. And I think it's done really well, because you go on this journey with these characters, because it is a transformative journey for I mean, mostly Steve Martin's character, but for both of them, because by the end of it, you realize, whoa, I wasn't expecting this much heart to the movie. I didn't know it was going to be deep like this. With John Candy's character, where it ends up going, you find out about his wife and everything like that. You're like, oh, okay then.
I had a feeling there was more to the story than that, because he kept kind of like tiptoeing around.
Yes.
About, like, oh, maybe they're separated, or, you mentioned that he hadn't been home for a long time. We'll get into that later on, but I had a feeling there was more to his story. Proved to be right.
You said that you'd never see this film before. So before watching it, what were your expectations for the film? And then how were your expectations met, or were they met? How did you find the film?
Based on, I guess, judging a book by its cover, I expected something like The Odd Couple, which is pretty true. These guys come from two different personalities. They do pretty different work. One's trying to be open and receptive, but it's also a little messy. The other one's more conservative. But he's tries to keep his wits about him, and just very much looking out for himself. Doesn't matter if it means walking over the other guy. But I knew this was a comedy, so I kind of anticipated it being in the realm of a National Lampoon's Vacation. It's all about the journey, not so much the destination. You talk about Wally World. We barely saw Wally World at the end of that movie, and it was just all about them getting there. I love those kind of movies. I love, the conflict of getting from point A to point B and everything that happens in between. So watching this gave me that setup, and, it met my expectations, I want to say. Not my favorite John Hughes movie, but still enjoyable. Got a chance to see more of John Candy, which I have not seen enough of his movies. And this is the first time I've kind of seen Steve Martin play, an everyday man, like an average Joe, Usually I associate him with roles like The Jerk and at SNL, Two Wild and Crazy Guys. He's very slapstick and goofy. Three Amigos, yeah. So to see him very, like, dialed down, it's kind of refreshing.
Mm.
I still wanted him to be, his goofy self, and you get that. Obviously, there's a reason why he's in that movie in the first place. You definitely get a lot more towards the end, because then he's like just burnt out and had it. You needed his energy and his mannerisms to fully tell exactly what he's going through, and only Steve Martin, I felt, could do that. Yeah.
No, I enjoyed the movie as well. I mean, it'd been a while since I saw it, to the point where I didn't remember much of it. I remember the basic beats, but just the nuances I'd forgotten. Even the ending I'd forgotten about. And my wife had never seen it before. And one of the things I did mention was that it's funny because I wouldn't have picked Steve Martin for it, but it works. So I would have been a terrible casting director, because I would have almost put Steve Martin in the John Candy role, because he's so like he can play the like energetic, optimistic, kind of fun kind of character as well, like slapstick as opposed to the serious.
It's harder to see John Candy as an asshole.
That's the thing. Well, that's the other part of it. Right?
He's just like he's everything but a Santa Claus. Right. It's just kind of like one of the nicest guys you could possibly ever meet. Obviously, one of the sloppiest people you ever stay with or be around too. Doesn't really. It's twisted, because it's like based on his actions, he doesn't feel like he's very considerate of anyone else around him. But then he's also trying to be so hospitable and accommodating and think about the other person first in different ways. It's weird, I've never seen that kind of shift.
But it's one of the things that I've actually been thinking about that a lot, because it's one of the things I like about the movie in terms of the character dynamics. You mentioned earlier how you're expecting that kind of odd couple comedy, which it kind of is, but it's not beholden to the tropes of the odd couple, because Steve Martin's character, he's not so much the straight, because in another story, he'd not only be the straight man, he'd be the straight man who's kind of an asshole.
Oh, but
he balances it just well, and also the circumstances John Hughes writes for the character to go into, you understand every frustration he goes through. So he's not you don't feel like, man, you're being a bit too much right now. You're like, no, I get why you're upset right now. I understand where you're coming from. But then on the flip side with John Candy's character, again, the trope would be he'd either be like literally a doofus or annoying, but he balances so well that you understand where he's coming from, and you can't be mad at him. He's just he's just so kind and so nice.
Especially after the ending,
right?
It's kind of like he's lonely, and so he's just trying to be, as he wants to be accepted. He wants to be liked. And so he's really will try to go out of his way to, make anyone comfortable or, make friends wherever he goes, which makes him a great salesman. He's very easy to talk to.
Oh, I mean, in the montage sequence of the film, I was like, this guy's actually good at his job. Yeah, like he can sell fucking fucking curtain rings. Shower curtain rings.
And turn them into earrings. Everyone's wearing curtain rings on their ears now. He's like, I'm gonna flip it.
Right.
That's what it is now.
And and his optimism, right? He's just like, they're both in bad situation, but he was always the one that's like, well, you know what? I'm gonna do this. This is a solution. We can possibly do this, rather than just complain about it. He wants to do something about it. And so there was something that I kind of liked about that character that made him not cross over the line of annoying. And same thing with Steve Martin. He doesn't quite cross over the line of being an asshole, and I think it's a testament to the actors as well to keep that balance very well. And it also made you believe why they stuck together, because it didn't, sometimes movies like this, you're like, I don't believe they're friends at the end of this. Fuck that. That's bullshit. Yeah, whereas this, you believed it, and I think that's the characters. Anything that surprised you, considering you'd never seen this film before?
I guess and there was a couple scenes that kind of took me out of it, I felt like it was just trying to be turned up a little bit just for the sake of adding more conflict. When John Candy, he's driving at night, and I'm sorry, I already forgot Steve Martin's name, and this is, I think, Neil.
Yeah, Neil.
And he's fast asleep, and then he gets his his arms stuck in and the seatbelt and then this other way and the handle here. And I'm like, okay, now this is just a farce. This is getting ridiculous. And he's trying to, he's singing away and he's also smoking and then he gets that stuck and he's driving with his knees. And the whole time I'm like, just pull over, just stop the car. This doesn't need to happen. You're not trying to protect your reputation here as a driver to this stranger that you've known for 2 days,
Can I tell you that though? And I think this is a testament to John Hughes directing, because I agree with you on everything, but at the same time, I absolutely love that scene. It shouldn't work. It shouldn't fit in the movie. It feels like an SNL sketch in itself, and I think, but it's a testament to how it's kind of played out. I think, and then by the end of it, when he's going the wrong way, and it's just like, you're going the wrong way. I was dying laughing.
How do they know where we're going?
He's like, yeah. Makes no sense.
Drunk, eh?
And again, all those scenes shouldn't work, but somehow it just kind of fits together because, like you said, it does. It in some places it changes the tone of the movie, and even the end, it's almost like, whoa, the tone is different. And even the when he's cursing at the lady, it feels like a different movie, but somehow it kind of all gels together, and I don't know how that works. I think it's a movie that there is no main character. I think the two of them together are the main character. The journey's the main character, right? I think the journey is the thing that kind of takes them. The processes of the journey is what makes them get close together. I think the director made good choices of what happens to them, because I think the things that happen to them are kind of believable at that time of year. Have you tried traveling on Thanksgiving? I sure have, and it's a bitch. My first Thanksgiving here, traveling from New York to Philadelphia, where my American family is. I thought, it's not that far. I take the trip to Philly all the time, easy. Try different Thanksgiving. Mike, you've taken the trip. You know how quick, the time it takes for it. About an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending. Traffic 2 hours.
Normally, tops. Yeah. But then you're also waiting for that bus to come. I know. I've been standing in like snow and rain, just waiting for this thing to arrive. They've gotten a lot better at it,
right?
But in the early stages.
Oh yeah, this is like when the Chinatown buses.
Oh my God, the Chinatown buses. That was only the first year that I was here, and I gave that up. I was in 2 accidents because in 6 months. Oh my God, it's terrible. It's cheap as hell, and th'll get you there. But you get on the bus, you don't ask questions,
What I appreciate of the movie though is I think as much as the different scenes sometimes felt tonally different, but still somehow worked. I found the pacing to work for me. I was always engaged. I mean, I don't think I was ever pulled out of the film. Did you ever find any lulls in the narrative?
Honestly, no. I agree. It based on what I heard from Steve Martin, or we talk sometimes. He was telling me about old stories. No, when he was in an old article, he was saying how that the original script was 145 pages.
Oh wow!
And he's like, I don't know how this is going to work for a comedy. And Steve Martin still claims that the original cut was 4.5 hours long. So I'm like, it did feel still a little long. I can't, top of my head, pinpoint where the lull was. It might have been between when John Candy is probably selling, his earrings, or probably when they're going between 2 cities, but.
Or the cameo with Dylan Baker, which I was like, what?
Yeah, there's so many cameos. I mean, it starts off with the actor who played Ferris's dad.
Oh yeah. I forgot that's where he's from. I was like, yes. I know that guy.
Yeah. He's like, you're never gonna make it. But overall, no, I felt like it was evenly paced. It's not a quick action, movie where it's constantly keeping you engaged at all times, but you definitely don't feel bored. You don't feel like it's gonna be where are they gonna go now? There's always a conflict. There's always a fire under them, sometimes literally. And I think it still holds up. Obviously, it's a little dated. I can't imagine the conflict of not having a credit card when they were going through that.
Oh my God! I was gonna say that some of those things Fun fact, funny thing you said that some things are dated. They are doing a remake with Will Smith and Kevin Hart, which is an interesting cast. I don't know who's going to play who. I would say, Gun, who do you think would play who?
Okay. Who's going to play Dell? All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
I think Kevin Hart has to be Dell, and Will Smith has to be Neil. I think Kevin Hart has to be the annoying.
I'm like, who's going to be the happy, annoying guy? And I'm like, that's definitely going to be Kevin Hart. You know, he's got the energy for it.
But
Will Smith can play.
But you know what?
Man.
I'm thinking of it now. I could see, because again, I could see Kevin Hart being the annoyed one, and Will Smith being overly optimistic.
That could be actually a great change instead of like really going against what everyone's expectations are, because Will Smith can play goofy really well. We've seen that in Fresh Prince time and time again.
Yes, like over optimistic goofy.
Yeah. I think they could switch it at any time. You know, I think they should do 2 versions of the movie, honestly.
Right. Both versions. But I think things like, and I wonder, because things like them not having access to credit cards or not having access to a cell phone. All right, just to make a phone call. You know, when the bus leaves him at the car stop and his car's not there, you know, cell phone, you can just call. You know, and you won't have to walk all that way. You know, so I'm curious how the remake will kind of deal with that. With what are the roadblocks? Okay, you have to travel, but communication. You know, we have easy communication. We have Uber now, so you know, like,
and like you can have your wallet stolen, but you still have like Apple Pay, Google Pay,
right?
You know, any ways to do it on, you know, like PayPal.
You don't have to chase a cab anymore.
Like they're gonna have to probably be robbed of everything, right? Phone, wallet,
or maybe they're threatened in a different country, right? They're not even in America. That you know, you've really throw them out there. Either way, I think the two of them working together could be interesting. I don't know if we could hold a candle to the duo of Steve Martin and John Candy. I don't know. That's a very high
confidence. These are two very, you know, lead actors, the same way as Steve Martin and John Candy were.
This is very true.
You know, they've had probably more movies than the two of them combined each. So I think, honestly, with two powerhouse actors that are very big in a comedy throughout their careers, I think I can see this being a pretty good movie.
I hope they get a good director to do it. The late unfortunately, John Hughes died in 2009, so he won't be around to see that. But I hope they find someone that can do it. The one thing I don't think is held up though is the 80s score. It's very synthesized.
Yeah, right from the beginning, I'm like, you know where we're at.
I was dying laughing. I was like, yep.
Me too.
80s.
I'm like, yeah.
80s. I think on that note, I think that's it for part 1. Part 2, which we're going to be recording next week, we're going to take a deep dive into the film itself. So if you guys have a chance to revisit the film and you have some thoughts to share, let us know. Find us on social media at The Nerdie Bunch, and we'll read out your thoughts on the next podcast. And also Raven and Mercedes should be joining us for that one. I think that's it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you, Rocket Mike, as always.
Thank you, English Dave, as always.
My name is English Dave. Thank you guys for listening. This has been part 1 of our Back to the Future special, Thanksgiving special, and we've been looking at planes. Is it trains, planes, or planes, trains?
Planes, trains.
Planes, trains. There you go. Planes. I always keep mixing it up. Planes, trains, and automobiles. And as always, Mike,
keep it nerdy.
Keeping nerdy nerds. Peace.